Hello, this is Noah Lee, and I'll be going over my work in Sprint 1 for the Skynet Creators team presenting Nestor FS. Just to quickly review, Nestor FS is our application. It is a smart file system sorter, providing a way for users to check the files they have on their computer, along with providing smart ways to reorganize and clean up the files that are given. Let me go ahead and jump into the sprint retrospective. I'll just be going over my portions of things that went well and the things that I think had room for improvement. And this is for the things that went well for myself. There isn't much here, just in sprint 1. Things that went well, I was able to spread my bulk code in the file visitor application into a much more spread out, packaged and imported version of the code. This was just due to my own misunderstanding of how to properly organize packages. In terms of room for improvement, I was having some issues finding more things to work on. So over the next sprint, I'll be looking to broaden into more things that I can work on in the future of the project. Next is the breakdown of labor, going over the stuff that I worked on in this sprint. I was able to complete all of my tasks, everything here. I was able to standardize the hashing function, provide a clean API into file visitors. I packaged my code and I did some general improvements to clean up the repo after our files were pushed individually. Next, let's move on to impediments. I'm not sure if we will be having our general presenter go over this, but I'll go ahead and cover mine now. The primary thing that I did look towards doing but didn't make much progress is an efficient virus or hash checking system. The primary reason why I had issues with this was not knowing if my implementation of hashing was the standard method or if there was a more particular way that things were done that wasn't in the way that I implement things, along with the trouble that I had determining a good way to check through what was likely going to be a relatively massive set of known hashes that may contain virus files. For the next sprint, I will be looking into creating an efficient and high volume method to check through the hashes that I have collected, along with possibly looking towards multi-threading this process to be able to check through everything more efficiently. Next, I'll go ahead and display what my features were this sprint. It's not going to be very much, but I'll just go over the high level of what I worked on. I'll go ahead and move into Visual Studio Code to display what I worked on in this sprint. As mentioned, the primary things that I did was work on breaking everything into packages so I could do everything individually, along with making a primary method to access this through an API through get file map. Like I said, what I mostly worked on is just making packages. Previously, I had to have the entirety of metadata contained within my visitors file, along with having this be the runner on its own. Since then, I was able to package this into its own visitor section, along with the same goes for metadata, and then import metadata into visitors so it can be used to actually have the metadata variables, along with making the simple one function call into my get file map. This has a commented section describing what everything is returned, along with how this should be best used. I can go ahead and run this on this folder. You can see this threads and gets everything out here. This also returns the hashes. This would also return all of the metadata for every file here, but just for the example, I'll just go ahead and show off the hashes on their own. Lastly, I was able to confirm that my method of getting hashes is the standardized version. I believe that MD5 hashing is generally the same, regardless of the method used to get the bytes. I did this with a file channel, byte buffer, and then a loop to go over the entire file. This is fairly standard and ended up working just fine for all of the code. And I did also clean up our repository, though this isn't shown very well here. It is much cleaner. We did have some issues with Joel ended up working through my files to build a JavaScript creator. This is used for his side to actually display all of this within his UI. I'm able to show that off, but this is what he needed to work on, and that had been put in file visitor, so I just broke that out into its own file here. This of course just calls down into my functions. And lastly, just moving into the things I'm working on next sprint. Primarily, I'm going to work towards getting the virus scanning to work. I expect this to be a fairly long process, needing to go through and find a good way to compile all that data, read through it, and then compare it to the files that we have, along with most likely finding some good way of testing this against some known files, or just providing my own hashes that I can test on. And that's everything. Okay, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and end it here. Bye.